Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Business from Scratch podcast. I'm Abbye, and we're doing a solo episode today that I wasn't even thinking about doing until last night. But I had a conversation last night out of the blue, and it's just been sitting heavy with me, so I wanted to talk about it. You're listening to Business from Scratch, the podcast for people building businesses they love without losing themselves along the way. I'm your host, Abbye McGee. Let's get started. I was talking with a local small business owner, and if you're local to Wilmington, you probably know her. She's smart, capable. She's someone who has built something real. And in the middle of the conversation, she said, I think I might need to sell my business. I can't do this anymore. There were some tears. There was some laughter. She had lots of questions for me about what, how, when, what the hell do I do? So if you're listening to this while sitting in your car, folding laundry, answering emails you don't care about, or staring at your computer, wondering how this thing took over your entire life, hi, this episode is for you. And just so we're all on the same page, if you've ever cried in a supply closet or the bathroom at your own business, congratulations, you're officially one of us. There's a very specific loneliness that comes with owning a business. It's not just working alone, it's holding a responsibility alone. You're the one who knows the numbers. You're the one who sees the cracks. You're the one who decides what gets paid and what has to wait. The one who can't really say, I have no idea what I'm doing, because everyone's looking at you like, well, you're the boss. And the wild part, from the outside, you look fine. The business is still running. Clients are still showing up. Social media still thinks you're thriving. Meanwhile, you're lying awake at night wondering how something you built with so much love started to feel like a hostage situation. If you've ever asked yourself, why can't I just handle this better? Let me say this very clearly. You are not weak. You are not dramatic. You are not ungrateful. You're tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. At some point, a lot of business owners cross an invisible line. The business stops supporting your life, and your life starts bending around the business. Your schedule, built around the business. Your nervous system, on call at all times. Your brain, it never fully shuts off. You tell yourself this is just a season, but that season has been going on longer than you can calculate with 10 fingers and even 10 toes. Here's a question I ask when someone tells me that they're here. If nothing changed, could you live like this for the next 3 years? Not survive, not push through, actually live. And if your answer was a laugh followed by an absolutely not, that's not weakness, that's wisdom trying to get your attention. That doesn't automatically mean it's time to quit, but it does mean something has to change. Ignoring this is how people end up resenting the very thing they once prayed for. One of the things my friend and fellow business owner said to me last night, almost like she was admitting a failure, was this: I've tried to find community. It just hasn't worked for me. And I felt that really deeply. Because sometimes it's not that you haven't tried, it's that you've tried and it hurt. Maybe you joined the group and felt invisible. Maybe you opened up and realized no one was actually listening. Maybe it turned competitive, performative, or weirdly transactional. Maybe you left feeling worse than when you walked in, like everyone else got the secret manual and you missed the meeting. And then you tell yourself, well, maybe community just isn't for me. Let me be very clear about something else. Bad community does not mean you're bad at connection. It just means it wasn't the right fit. I've had seasons where I sat in rooms full of business owners and felt completely alone, where the conversation stayed surface level. It was all metrics and milestones, and no one talked about the part where you cry in the shower because you are so tired. Okay, quick 30-second break while I tell you something that made a huge difference for me. I'm literally sitting in the Unfiltered studio right now. This place is a game changer. I knew there was no way this podcast was going to get done at home. I didn't want to deal with lighting, sound, all the other tech and distractions. Now I just prep and show up here. Everything's set up. I sit down and I feel like a total pro. If you're in Wilmington and need a space to record, visit unfilter.io or just search Unfilter Studio on Instagram and see it for yourself. Here's what I've learned about finding the right kind of community, especially after being burned. First, notice how your body feels, not how impressive the group sounds, not how successful everyone looks. Do you feel like you can exhale? Do you feel like you can tell the truth without cleaning it up first? Do you leave feeling steadier or smaller? Second, pay attention to how people respond when you're honest, not just when you're winning, but when you're struggling too. If vulnerability is met with silence, comparison, or someone immediately telling you what you should do, that's information you need to pay attention to. I want to pause here for a second because this part matters more than people admit. If you've tried to find community and it felt performative or competitive or like everyone was quietly keeping score, that is not your failure. Let me say that again because someone needs to hear it in their chest. If a space only works when you're winning, it's not community. If vulnerability is punished or ignored, that's not support. If you walk out feeling smaller than when you walked in, that's not connection. That's a vibe you don't want any part of. And here's the thing, performative spaces need people to believe they're the problem. Because if you start trusting your own intuition, the whole thing falls apart. So if you ever left a room thinking, maybe I'm too sensitive, maybe I just don't fit in, maybe I'm doing something wrong, take a pause. It might not be you. It might be a culture that rewards comparison, polish, and hierarchy instead of honesty. And you don't need to contort yourself to belong in a space that confuses competition with connection. Good community holds you when you're messy. Bad community makes you feel like you need to clean yourself up first. And if you've been burned by that before, it makes sense that you'd hesitate to try again. That's not weakness, that's discernment. Community doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to come with a Slack channel. And if you've had bad luck before, you're allowed to be cautious. That doesn't mean you give up. It just means you protect your heart while you try again. Now let's talk about the part people whisper about. Sometimes it really is time to sell, not because you failed, not because you couldn't handle it, but because the business no longer fits the life you want to live. Here's some signs worth paying attention to. You feel relief, not grief, when you imagine stepping away. You no longer believe in where the business is headed. The cost to your health, relationships, or peace feels too high. You've tried restructuring and nothing meaningfully shifts, or you're staying out of obligation, not alignment. Selling can be a powerful strategic decision, but please hear this part clearly. Don't make that decision from the deepest point of burnout, because burnout is a liar. It tells you everything is broken and always will be. Rest first, get support, talk to someone who can help you zoom out, and then decide. You deserve to choose your next chapter with clarity and not exhaustion. Here's the connection I want you to sit with. A lot of people think they want to sell their business when what they actually want is to not feel alone inside of it anymore. Sometimes the decision to sell comes after finding the right support. Sometimes it comes because support confirms what you already know. Both are valid. But you shouldn't have to decide the future of your business while isolated, overwhelmed, and carrying everything by yourself. You are not trapped, you are not failing, and you are not weak for wanting your life back. Your business is a chapter, it's not a life sentence. Whether the next step is community, restructuring, or closing this chapter with intention, you don't have to do it alone. And if no one has told you lately, you're doing better than you think. Thank you for joining us here for this really important episode. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know how you're doing. You can DM me on Instagram, or you can email me at info@businessfromscratch.co. And it would mean the world to me if you would share this episode with a friend that might need some encouragement. We will see you back here next Tuesday for another new episode. Have a great week. Thanks for joining me on Business from Scratch. Follow the show for more honest conversations about building a business that works for you.